Notice that throughout the prison epistles, Ephesians, Galatians, Philippians, Colossians, you find the subject of prayer over and over. In fact, you find some of the greatest prayers in the Bible in those books. In fact, I'm going to give you some of the references here. When you have a chance, look up Ephesians chapter 1, verses 15 to 23. This is a powerful intercessory prayer. He can't be with believers face to face, but he is praying for them. This is a great prayer list to pray for those that you love, to pray for one another. Ephesians chapter 3, verses 1 through 19. Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 to 11. Colossians chapter 1, verses 3 to 12. And then Colossians chapter 2, verses 1 to 3. Paul made sure to spend time in prayer. Folks, may we not get to the end of this crisis and find out that we wasted our time. It can be very, very easy with all the news and all the bad news to the moment that you get up, you can flip on the news or grab your phone, start scrolling through, rather than going straight to the Lord in prayer. Folks, let's not let that happen. Let's not let that be us. Let's go straight to the Lord. He's the one who controls the future. And our prayers can impact that future. So let's start the day when you have the most energy, when your focus is at its peak, when your reserves are at their peak. Spend that on what is most important. Go right to the Lord in prayer. We find also the Apostle Paul kept himself busy with the study of the Word of God. Paul was imprisoned in Rome not once but twice. And in that second imprisonment, he wrote to Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, and he says to Timothy, he says, please bring the books and the parchments. And he had told Timothy to study, to show yourself approved. And Paul lived that out. He was a student of the Word of God. And so he was saying, Timothy, please bring with you books and parchments. We find that these books very likely would have been probably not the scriptures. Parchments were probably the scrolls. A parchment was much more expensive. And so the scriptures were written on that very expensive type of material. These books were likely writings like modern-day commentaries would be. Writings about the scriptures, about the Old Testament scriptures and such. And he said, please bring my library here. Folks, this is something else that we need to remember. Our strength, our sustenance comes from the Word of God. Jesus said that man shall not live but by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So if you are not feeding yourself, if you're starving yourself of the Word of God, I am telling you folks, much of what we are learning in the media and such, bad news sells, and so they make sure to focus on the bad news, and it's like eating poison. And people are obsessing over all that they're losing in the stock market and such, and I'm not trying to minimize that. But listen, folks, you can become so discouraged and depressed if that is all you're eating. No, you need to be eating the Word of God, reading good things, reading uplifting things. Like Philippians chapter 4 talks about, thinking about those things that are true, honest, good report, lovely, that which is of good report. We need to be spending time, folks, reading things that are going to focus us on our mission and equip us for that mission.